but I'm just a rock chick.
I would describe my music and my sound as Avril.
It's the best damn thing.
Welcome back to another episode of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast, a facts and trivia-based podcast about Canadian pop singer Avril Lavigne. I'm your host, Andrea DiFrancesco. In this bonus edition of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast, I'm going to be sharing all about my experience seeing Avril on the Greatest Hits tour. But before we launch into everything to do with this episode, I first want to give you a little life update and what to expect from the podcast going forward. So basically what happened is the week after my husband and I got married, which was in early June, so this is mid-June now, we got some new neighbors living above us in our apartment complex, or if you're not from the US, you might know it as like a flat. But we have people, so we live in a shared apartment building, and we got these new people living above us, and they have been causing a lot of problems for us ever since then. So this is going on 2 or 3 months at this point, mainly with them like keeping us up at night a lot with a lot of noise that they make. They also have kids, and so the kids tend to run around and make a lot of noise. And sometimes that makes it also really difficult to even try recording a podcast. So I actually have a walk-in closet in my apartment that I go into to record because like it's just a lot of soundproofing in here. But sometimes if they're making noise in the master bedroom, it comes through in here while I'm trying to record. And so sometimes that can make it really difficult to record. I have to like wait for the noise to stop. And then I have to stop talking, wait for the noise to stop, and then edit it out and then redo what I was saying. So it just gets really frustrating trying to record anything these days. And we've just had a lot of problems with these neighbors, and nothing that anyone has done to try to get them to cooperate has worked. And so my husband and I, as you can imagine, have been very, very stressed, which also has made it hard for me to want to try recording, like between being very stressed out, tired all the time, and then having these people making noise while I'm trying to record. It just makes it so difficult to try to record anything. And so my husband and I have ultimately come to the decision where we feel like we just have no choice but to move out of our apartment as soon as possible. And so that's mainly what we're working on right now, is trying to find another apartment to go to. And hopefully we can move within the next couple of months. So I honestly don't know how many more episodes I'm going to do before then, just because between all the issues that I mentioned of even trying to record an episode, and then between having to pack things up and start the process of moving and all that kind of thing, I don't know how many more episodes I'm going to be doing, in between then. This might very well be the last episode that I'm recording from this particular apartment complex. So it's a little bittersweet because I started this podcast when I moved into this apartment. I started it like a few months after moving here, and I've been doing this for 3 years. And so it's a little bit bittersweet to think that this could very well be the last episode that I do in here. And speaking on that, like, I don't know yet where we're going to be moving to, but I don't think any of the apartments that we're looking at happen to have walk-in closets like this one does. And so I might just end up recording episodes like in my bedroom or like office space. I don't know if that might end up changing the sound quality, or if it might also make it difficult for me to do more episodes again, because I don't know what like the noise is going to be like at my other place that I moved to. If I could end up having people next to my bedroom or above my bedroom that are also making noise. And so it's just a little uncertain right now what is going to be happening with the podcast. Like, because I really enjoy doing the podcast, but obviously I don't have like a dedicated studio that I go to or anything like that. Like, this is not a professional production or anything. So I just record it out of my apartment, and that comes with its own set of challenges, as anybody who has ever lived in an apartment knows the difficulties just from other people living there. And especially if your apartment doesn't have a lot of good insulation from other people's noises. So I just kind of want to give you a little heads up before we start talking about like my experience going to see Avril at the Greatest Hits tour, like, which is definitely a lot more fun topic to talk about. So I kind of want to get like the not so great news out of the way in the beginning so that we could then just talk about fun stuff. But yeah, I wanted to just kind of give you that little update because, like I said, the future of this podcast going forward for like the short term is a little bit uncertain right now, because my current living situation doesn't make it very conducive for recording episodes. And then depending on where I live next, I don't know what that's going to be like either. Hopefully wherever I go next, I mean, I might not be able to be like in a closet, to record episodes. So it might not be like quite as good sound quality wise, but hopefully wherever I go next, if I'm just recording it like in my bedroom or at my desk in my office or something, that it'll still be relatively good quality for you to be listening to, like just so that you're not at least hearing kids screaming in the background or something like that, or people like walking all over the ceiling or something. At least if you're not hearing that, I consider that to be good enough quality. And as you can imagine, with all of that going on, like all of the stress, I mean, it's been truly, truly stressful. Like I've been through a lot of stressful things in my life, but I might honestly say this feels like the most stressful thing I think I've ever been in my life because, I work from home and obviously like it's my home. And so especially after just getting married, like all the stress of wedding planning and finally getting the wedding over with, and then this happens. Neighbors can quite literally make or break your living experience if you have to live in something like an apartment complex where it's a shared living space, or anyone who's ever lived in like a college dorm room or had roommates, like that kind of thing. Like anybody who's ever had to basically share a living space with someone in some capacity knows that the people that you live with or near can basically make or break your living experience. And it really stinks a lot when you otherwise like where you live, but, someone is kind of making your life miserable, basically, just because they can't be courteous and that kind of thing. And so, it feels for me like my whole life has kind of been turned upside down, and I've been made to feel very like anxious being in my own house because of all the noises and not being able to sleep and that kind of thing. And it's been a truly stressful, very like emotional experience. And then trying to figure out what to do and where to go from here. Like it's just been, as you can imagine, very, very stressful to go through, and caused me a lot of like anxiety and kind of made me depressed, honestly, because I just felt like no matter what I tried to do, that the situation was never going to improve. And it seemed like there wasn't like really an easy way out. And, my husband and I, if we have to move away, we have to sort of start all over and move all of our stuff and sort of like create new routines and that kind of thing. So as you can imagine, it's just been a whole like roller coaster for the last couple months of like all these different emotions and a lot of stress and everything. And so going to this concert, like having the Avril concert to look forward to, knowing that it was coming up soon, was sort of like a life preserver for me, just like something to hang on to, like a bright spot that I knew there was going to be something fun, a fun night out, and something positive for me to look forward to. And, I will definitely say core memories were formed at this show. Like when I was at the show, I was able to just kind of forget everything that was going on at home and just enjoy a night out with my husband, going to see my favorite singer in concert, just enjoy some really great music and just have fun and like let loose and rock out to all the songs, not just from Avril's set, but the opening acts were great as well. And just enjoy some really good music and just kind of like forget about everything for a little while. And that's exactly what concerts are supposed to do. And like the opening acts, I think, even addressed that. I think maybe that might have been something that Simple Plan brought up during their set, during one of their songs. They said that like if you're going through something, like this is your night out just to kind of forget about what's going on in your life and just kind of escape from it for a little while. And I think that's why a lot of us go to concerts and why we listen to Avril and her music in particular is to help us through whatever it is that we're going through, and that she inspires us to keep going, or her music is a source of strength for us. And so I will say that core memories were definitely formed at this show. And, every time I start to think about what's going on in my current situation right now, I'll just think back to that concert. I'll look back at my photos and my videos that I took. And it's just kind of something for me to remember and look back on that, can kind of make me feel a little bit better. But before I go through my entire concert experience, here's the latest news and events that have happened since the previous episode. On July 19th, Avril joined Goldfinger on stage at their concert in Los Angeles to sing their song Here in Your Bedroom, which she had appeared on for the re-released version back in 2022. They also celebrated drummer Nick Gross's birthday, and Avril smashed a cake into his face. On July 20th, a snippet of the Let Go B-side By the Light of the Moon leaked, however it's unclear if it could be AI generated. On July 22nd, Avril attended the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine in New York City. I'm With You was featured in both the film itself and on the film's soundtrack released on July 24th. Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds' wife, actress Blake Lively, uploaded a funny Instagram reel making reference to I'm With You being quoted in the movie. She also posted photos on Instagram meeting Avril at the premiere, writing, "Your talent and kindness are off the charts. Forever icon." On July 25th, Avril appeared briefly in a social media clip advertising the release of the song Dear Maria, Count Me In, All Time Low's version by All Time Low. On July 27th, a clip of another Let Go B-side called Bonded supposedly leaked, however it's believed to be AI generated and not authentic. On August 11th, Avril joined Nate Smith as a surprise guest during his set at the Boots and Hearts Music Festival in Burles Creek, Ontario, Canada to sing Bulletproof. On August 12th, Avril resumed the Greatest Hits tour at a sold-out show at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada. On August 15th, she attended Blink-182's concert at Rogers Centre in Toronto. On August 22nd, Nate Smith announced the track list for his upcoming album California Gold, including the song Can You Die From a Broken Heart featuring Avril. The album will be released on October 4th. Additionally, every track on the standard edition of Let Go has sold at least 150,000 units in the US, making it the first and only female album released in 2002 to achieve this milestone. And Let Go is also less than 300,000 units away from being certified 9 times platinum eligible in the US. It is expected to reach 9 million units sold in the first quarter of 2025. And now let's get into talking all about my experience seeing Avril on the Greatest Hits tour. So I'm going to go through my entire experience from the very beginning all the way till the end, like not just talking about the show itself, but kind of the whole experience in general, just like going to the venue and the opening acts and what I kind of did beforehand and all that stuff, just the whole experience, just so that you can kind of get the full idea of how the whole thing was, especially if you haven't been able to go to any shows yourself and you kind of just want to like be able to live vicariously, maybe. So my show was August 21st at the Xfinity Theatre in Hartford, Connecticut, and this is my 3rd time overall seeing her. I first saw her on the Avril Lavigne tour in 2014, and then I saw her on the Head Above Water tour in 2019. So I'm recording this a couple of days after the show just so that my memory is as fresh as possible, to be able to recount everything that happened. So I had never been to this venue before. I think my husband had many, many years ago, but I've never been to Xfinity Theatre before. But it's funny because I had read some reviews on it, and there were a lot of negative reviews about it, but I honestly didn't have a negative experience at this venue at all. I thought it was pretty well organized considering like the size of the show, but maybe it's also because we were attending on a weekday. I don't know if like weekend shows might be busier, but even for a weeknight, it was a Wednesday night and it looked like a pretty packed venue to me. I believe the capacity of the venue inside, so it was one of those like outdoor amphitheater type of venues, like she's been playing a lot of those on this tour, and then there's also lawn area seating outside. And so I think the indoor capacity is something like 7,500. And then with the outdoor seating added on, it can accommodate up to like 20,000 people altogether between the inside and the outside. So I think there was quite a lot of people sitting on the lawn, and then inside the arena, it looked pretty packed to me. And so my husband and I, like where our seats were is like, there was definitely like the bottom part where the pit was, and like, I don't know if there were seats down there. I think there were, but it was a lot of like pit and standing room. And then there's like some like the VIP seats and stuff. So we were on the next level above that. So even though we were higher up, it was like, it didn't feel high up at all. It was sort of like, amphitheater style seating where it's like raised like a theater is. And we were on the aisle seats, so we were able to see really well. And, I could definitely see Avril. Like I could see her. It wasn't like she looked like an ant or something, but they also had video screens up to project her so that we could see her better. So between like being able to see her on stage and being able to see her on the video screens, we could see very, very well. So the experience of getting to the venue itself, we didn't really have too much trouble. We did hit a little bit of traffic on the way. So I would recommend to anybody who's going, like just to kind of maybe plan around that. I think the doors opened 2 hours before the opening act went on. So our showtime was a little bit later start time than some of these other ones I think are. I think a lot of them tend to be starting at 7 p.m., but ours was starting at 8 p.m. So the doors opened 2 hours beforehand. So you could stop at the merch booth and get merch. There was strangely no photo booth this time. So I think outside of at least the venue I think it was at the Toronto show, they had a photo booth, but I'm not sure if they brought that to the other shows. It might have been like either just a Toronto show only thing or a Canada show only thing. They don't seem to be bringing it to the US shows. And then you can also, of course, get like food and drinks and that kind of thing. Parking was like a little bit confusing to figure out where to park, but luckily we were able to find like the free lot that wasn't like you had to park a million miles away or anything. So parking was not too difficult. They did have people like directing us and everything, but definitely like research the parking situation before you go, because it's obviously going to vary venue to venue. And, there might be some lots that you have to pay for and others that are free, but they might be further away and that kind of thing. But for us, parking was not really that big of a deal. And then we did have to do some walking to get to the venue. And then we went through the security line, which was not difficult at all. So again, research like the bag policies and stuff before you go. and know like what you can and can't bring inside, and it should be pretty quick. Like they have multiple lines so you can get through quickly. And also I will say too, for the ticket situation, it could vary depending on the venues, but I think a lot of venues now are doing electronic tickets that you have to save on your phone. Like you can't print them out or anything like that. They're not going to send you physical tickets anymore, and you can't print them out. You have to have like an electronic version of them, and so just keep those like saved in your wallet on your phone pretty much at all times, and it should be relatively quick to get inside. So at least for us, like because I had everything ready to go, like basically have everything ready to go as you approach the line, and you should be able to get through pretty quickly. At least that was my experience. And so basically as soon as we got into the venue, I went to go find the merch stand, and I think they should have various merch stands set up. Like there was, I think, 2 different areas outside, and then there was one merch stand inside the venue. So there's plenty of places to get merch so that like the lines can go kind of quickly. And I think we were standing at the merch stand for maybe like 15 or 20 minutes. Like even though the line looked pretty long, we were able to get through in a pretty quick like manner of time. Also, the way that the merch stand works, in case you have not seen it or you've never been before, the way that they did it is that you can see all the different items they have available like on the wall in the back, and they all have numbers next to them so that you can just easily say like, give me number 5 in a size small or number 10 in a size medium or something like that. And they also have, I think they might have had girlfriends merch, but I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think if they did, I didn't see a lot of it, but they definitely had Simple Plan merch as well as the Avril merch, so you can get both at the same stand if you want. And I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to get. Like basically that's another kind of thing I would recommend, is like while you're waiting in line to try to look and see what you want, so that as soon as it's your turn, you know exactly what you want so you don't hold up the line. So I was going to initially just get one shirt and a tote bag, but then I saw another shirt that I also liked, and so I kind of panicked and I just bought both. So definitely be prepared to spend money at the merch stand. Like the merch is definitely a little bit more pricey than you would probably expect it to be, because that's just how tour merch is. So the shirts tended to be about $40 each. The tote bag was $35. And then I think they had a couple of hoodies that were like, they ranged from like 80 to 90 US dollars. The rest of it, I'm not really sure on. They also had a couple of hats. They had a tie. They had like light up bracelets that were $15 each. They had the Greatest Hits album on vinyl that you could buy. I forget how much it was though. I think they also had a poster that was maybe like $40. Was that $40 for a poster? I'm not really sure. Maybe it was like $35. I can't really remember, but I think they also had a poster. They also had the skate decks that you can buy. Like I think they used to have them on her website, but I don't know if they have them anymore, but you can buy the skate decks, and those were $150. So there was definitely plenty of merchandise to choose from, and I don't think it's stuff that you can really readily buy on her website, at least not right now. Like maybe once the tour is over, they might put anything that didn't sell up on her website and maybe even discount it, but definitely your best bet to get any of this stuff would be to go to a show if you can. I don't think that a lot of this stuff is available on her website. I think some of it is, like they had the Skater Boy shirt and the tie and the hats and stuff, like those are available on her website, but I'm not sure about some of the other stuff. So the shirts that I ended up getting, I got one of the shirts is it's the Greatest Hits album cover in black and white with the tour dates on the back. And that was initially the only shirt I was going to get. But then there was another shirt that I really liked, that it's like a bunch of photos of her in the Complicated outfit, like when she did the shoot for the Greatest Hits album and she recreated the Complicated outfit. And that one also has the tour dates on the back. And I kind of couldn't decide which one I liked best. And so I kind of just panicked, because it's like you don't have a lot of time to make up your mind about things. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just take that one too. But I'm glad I honestly bought both, because, you know, how often are you going to go to a show and like get shirts to commemorate like your time being there and stuff? And like obviously if you're going to wear them and everything. So, you know, I was like, you know what, I'll just get both. And then the tote bag was actually a lot bigger than I expected it to be. So it says Avril Lavigne, the Greatest Hits Tour on one side, and like these big red letters. And then the other side just says Avril in concert, and it has a big picture of her like playing the guitar on stage. It is a huge tote bag. Like it is a lot bigger than I expected it to be. Like sometimes when you get a tote bag at like merch stands at shows, they're like these tiny little things and they're like $15 or $20. This was a $35 tote bag, but it's like really big. It's pretty good size. I'm very happy with it. I'm so glad I bought it. And actually it came in handy as well to carry everything else in. So sometimes people have wondered that. like if they go to buy merch at a show and they're like, oh, do they give you a bag to put it in? So no, they don't give you bags to put stuff in. So I would definitely recommend, if you are planning on like buying a lot of merch or stuff like that, to maybe invest in a tote bag, because it's another piece of merch and you might as well just buy one that you can then use, and then you can also use it to like store all your stuff in. So after we got done with the merch stand, so like I said, there was no photo booth to take pictures in front of, but they did have like a marquee that had, it said like Avril Lavigne in concert tonight or whatever it said on it, that you could take. It was like presented by Budweiser, I guess that was like a sponsor or something. So it was like this sponsored marquee that you could take a photo in front of. And so we had someone take our picture. By the way, just saying, my husband is not an Avril Lavigne fan at all, but he was like a very good sport about the whole thing. This is his second time seeing Avril in concert with me. So like he definitely knows of Avril, like, he knows like a lot of the hits and stuff. Just putting that out there that, he enjoyed the whole experience with me. So we took our picture in front of the marquee, and we actually brought our own food inside with us. Like the venue allowed us to bring our own food as long as it was like sealed up, and we could bring our own water and stuff. So we didn't bother to buy any of the food or drinks that they had, but they had a lot of food vendors and stuff there, and a lot of places selling like alcoholic beverages, like cocktails, and like these really cool they called it juice. It was like these really cool containers. They almost looked like gigantic sippy cups or something. That's kind of what it reminded me of, that had these really good looking alcoholic drinks in them. I'm not a drinker, so I wasn't gonna buy it, but I guess if I was a drinker, I probably would have liked to try one of those. The other thing that was really good about this venue is that they had pretty good restroom options. So, I mean, that's going to vary venue to venue, but I would also maybe try to look on like a map, like a venue map ahead of time, to see what the restroom situation might be. So I went to the restroom. I figured I'd go to the restroom before we went inside. So there was like restrooms outside of the venue, but then there were also restrooms inside. And I think the lines kind of varied. Like the one that was outside was less popular. So that might be another thing, is to kind of read like tips. Like I think the website had said that the one outside tends to be less busy because you have to go further. So maybe see if they have like tips about where the closest restrooms are, or the ones that tend to have like less lines, because especially for us women going to an Avril Lavigne concert, there's going to be a lot of women there, and as we all know, women's restrooms always have the longest lines. So if that's something that you think you need to plan for, then maybe like see what the venue recommends about that. But I personally didn't have too much trouble with the restrooms. Like I never had to wait in a super long line or anything. So we both went to the restroom before going inside. And then, like I said, you have to have your tickets like ready to go so that they can scan them, and then you can find your seat. We had a little bit of trouble finding our seats just because like the seating, like the way they labeled it wasn't super clear, but they obviously will have like ushers that can help you if you don't know where to go to your seat. I don't know anything about VIP early entry, that kind of thing, because I didn't get that. But I think if you get the VIP early entry tickets, it should tell you like on your ticket, like if you have access to any of those pre-show lounges or anything like that, or if you get like special parking. Usually you get to enter the parking lot before anyone else as well. And you get to enter before anybody else does. So I would just look on the ticket, I guess, for that kind of information, or maybe call the venue directly or something. But I don't know anything about that because I didn't get the VIP tickets. So we were able to find our seats pretty easily. Like it kind of took us like a couple minutes to find them, but we were able to find them pretty easily. And I think pretty soon after that, I think it was maybe 10 minutes later, I think, or something, that they started. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was not too long after we sat down that the first opening act started. So Girlfriends was the first opening act, and they played for about a half hour. Going into it, I didn't honestly have a lot of like high expectations for the opening acts because I'm not at all familiar with Girlfriends music. But I was actually like pleasantly surprised by them. I think my husband was as well. My husband actually liked them so much that he added some of their songs that they played to his Apple Music. They're definitely very Avril adjacent, like 2000 sounding pop punk. And they were definitely like, they were entertaining. Like that's kind of all they need to be. Like sometimes with opening acts, people can be kind of funny about them. Like sometimes they'll show up late to the concert on purpose so that they don't have to listen to the opening acts. Or sometimes people don't really like pay attention to the opening acts. But like the opening acts are there to just kind of get you pumped for the main act. And sometimes you can surprisingly find like stuff that you like you would not expect to like this band. And then you end up discovering new music that you really like. Just like, my husband ended up liking a lot of their music. So yeah, I mean, I didn't have a lot of expectations for Girlfriends because I was not familiar with them at all. I couldn't tell you one song that they do. But they were like really solid and really enjoyable. And I enjoyed them a lot more, honestly, than I was expecting to. So they played for about a half hour. And then it was like 15 minutes later, Simple Plan came on and they played for about 45 minutes. And I also I know of Simple Plan's music, like I know some of their hits and stuff. And I think they did a pretty good job stacking their set with songs that people would know. And they also do the Scooby-Doo theme song, and they brought out people like performers dressed in Scooby-Doo heads and stuff on stage. And then the drummer Chuck came out on stage and he like stage dived and crowd surfed and stuff. So they were fun. Like, I'm not necessarily like a Simple Plan fan or anything, but you know, they have fun songs that like we know, and you know, they just seemed like really fun to me. And I think it's cool that they and Avril had toured together on her very first tour, and here like 20 plus years later they're still touring together, even though they're like entering their 40s now. So it's just kind of funny to see how all these years later they're kind of like, it's like such a full circle moment going back again. So I enjoyed the opening acts a lot more than I expected to, which is actually a good thing, because sometimes you can sit through opening acts and be like, you know, whatever, I'm just waiting for the main act to get on stage. But I think they both did a really solid job of like pumping up the crowd and getting them ready for Avril, which is exactly what they're supposed to do. After Simple Plan was done, they needed to set up the stage for Avril, and that took about like 20 to 30 minutes, I think. And you could see them like putting the big balloons that are on stage. Like, they have these big balloons that look like The Best Damn Thing and Love Sucks album logos that they put on stage. You could see them like rolling those out onto the stage and like inflating them and stuff. And then her crew came out to like sound test all of the instruments and the microphones and stuff like that. So it took them a little while to get the stage set up for her. So it was about 10 o'clock when Avril went on stage, and she played through all the same songs that she's been playing. But just in case you're not familiar with what the set list is, just reading it off of setlist.fm. So there's the video intro that plays that shows all her album logos on screen, and then it's like all the album covers flash across the screen and stuff. And I think it's just like a really well edited intro. It's sort of like her version of the Eras tour in a way. So it's kind of neat to see like all her different eras flash across the screen, especially if you've been a fan since the very beginning. And yeah, I think it's just the perfect way to open up a greatest hits set. So then she comes out to the stage singing Girlfriend, and the costumes that she wore for our show. So for the first act, she was wearing like the pink, it was like the white, black, and pink variant of the hoodie. And then for the second set, she wore the Under My Skin version of the jersey. And then of course for the finale, the encore, she wore like that same white hooded ensemble that she always wears. So she started off with Girlfriend, which is the perfect song for her to open with, especially for a Greatest Hits tour. Like, I don't think she ever needs to pick another opening song for her concerts. Like, it's the perfect song to get the energy going. And I think I had like a little tear, honestly, in my eye when she appeared on stage, because, you know, like I said, I had been needing this so badly, and like I had been looking forward to it so much. And there's just nothing like, you know, like for that inner child part of you, like if this is your childhood favorite artist and you see them like in person in front of you coming up out of the stage, like there's so much anticipation, and then like waiting for them to come up out of the stage. And you know, like all these years later, you've been a fan since the beginning, and seeing her on the Greatest Hits tour, opening up the show with Girlfriend and just getting the energy going right away. You know, all that waiting, all that anticipation, and you're so excited. And it was just like something I had been looking forward to so much and needed so badly to see. So I had like a little tear, you know, kind of form in my eye when she came out. And I just had such a great time like rocking out to Girlfriend. And then she went into What the Hell. And I really like those high notes that she has been nailing those high notes. And I like that little run that she's been doing it on the last chorus that she has been like adding in recently, and she just nails it every time. Then of course she went into Complicated, and she did like a nice little speech beforehand talking about like, you know, this was my first single and I can't believe I'm on my Greatest Hits tour, and this is dedicated to anyone who's been a fan since day one, which of course is me. And also I forgot to say too, what I wore the Let Go album cover shirt. So, you know, Let Go is, as I've said many times, Let Go is my all-time favorite album from her as well as from any artist. And so it's like I kind of had to represent. And so that just felt like a dedication kind of to the fans like me who are Let Go lovers and who have been fans since day one. Side note too, I really liked seeing what everyone was wearing to the show. Like a lot of people really went all out and dressed in like the tank tops and the ties, or they would wear like more gothic inspired outfits. And some people had like the pink streaks in their hair. So there were people who really went all out for some of their outfits. And then there were people like myself who kind of just wore tour merch or whatever. And it was funny because I would point it out to my husband every time I saw someone like wearing the same shirt as me. So then after Complicated, she did Smile, and then Here's to Never Growing Up, and the chorus of Hot. And then she went backstage for a costume change. And that's when they did like the Let Go interview era highlights video, which was really cool to see. And I hope that they eventually put that on her YouTube or something, just because I'd like to see it again and be able to see it like in better quality, like not, standing like a million feet away, watching it on a big screen, like be able to watch it closer up. I think it was just so well edited and a nice thing to include as like a highlight into her greatest hits tour. So then for the second act, she came out to do My Happy Ending on the guitar, and He Wasn't. So she did do the hands up and down game again with He Wasn't, where it's like get loud, now get quiet, that kind of thing. And I expected it to go on for a really long time, but it actually didn't go on very long at all. So I think it was like enough to kind of get the idea and have some fun with the crowd without it going on like too long and eating up too much time in the set list. Then she did Don't Tell Me, and then she did Losing Grip, which I think Losing Grip is such a highlight of the show. I think it's one of the best songs from Let Go, but I think she just absolutely nails it live. And the band goes really hard with it live too. Like the rock element of that, like you can just tell her band can really like sink their teeth into those heavy guitars and heavy drums and everything. Like it hits so hard live with the live band. So Losing Grip is definitely a highlight of the show. Then she did When You're Gone, but I think lately what she's been doing is she has been doing only a verse and a chorus of When You're Gone for some reason. And then they do they bring out Simple Plan to do Addicted together, and that's when they pull up a couple fans from the audience on stage, and she signs the skateboards for them and takes pictures with them and stuff. So that was really fun. So obviously when All Time Low was on the tour with her, they were doing Fake as Hell together, but now because it's Simple Plan, they're doing Addicted together. And it's such a fun moment in the show. Like, even though I had said before, I think it's a little strange that she's like including someone else's song into her greatest hits set list. Kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. But I appreciate that she wants to bring out one of the openers to do something fun together with. And it's a fun sing-along moment. It's got like a catchy hook and everything. And then bringing the fans up on stage and having that moment with them, I think is really special. Then she did Bite Me and Love It When You Hate Me from Love Sucks. And I know some people had criticized the choice of including Love It When You Hate Me in the set list because it's not really a standout track from Love Sucks altogether, and it's not one of the greater hits of hers, but I actually thought it flowed really nicely into the set list, and I had expected that they would just play Black Bear's part on the track, but I think instead one of her guitarists sang that part instead, so I think it worked really nicely, honestly, and it has such a fun chorus to sing along with too, so I honestly think it works pretty well in the set list, actually. And then she concluded with Skater Boy. She concluded the main set with Skater Boy, and it was so explosive, like all of these, like fireworks and pyro and smoke machines and stuff were going off, and like they do all these insane things with the lighting and all kinds of stuff. Like it was really like such a momentous way to end the show. And I honestly think, like, I know some people have kind of criticized, like they think that should be the ultimate finale of the show. Instead, there's an encore after it, where she does two ballads. It kind of like, it's like the energy is so high up and then it kind of gets brought down. I kind of agree to some extent after seeing it. I kind of think Skater Boy would be like the most ultimate end to the show, but I kind of understand her thinking of like, that's the end of the main set and now I'll do like a quiet encore kind of thing, which she then comes out to do Head Above Water and then ends the show with I'm With You. So I will agree with some past criticisms that the video intro for Head Above Water is pretty long, but I think it's well edited, and I think that the way the band plays the music to accompany it, it kind of like builds and crescendos, and there's all these kinds of emotional like beats that they hit on that I think I think it works really well with the way that the video is done. So like, yeah, it is kind of noticeably long, but I think the way that the video is edited and then the way that the band is kind of adding the dramatics in there, I think it kind of makes it holds your attention, I think, long enough. And I think it's overall just like kind of interesting to watch as we're waiting for Avril to come back on stage. And then I will say, like seeing her sing I'm With You, that is always a highlight of every show that she does. And of course, she wants people to like hold up their lighters and sing along the chorus with her a few times. And it's just an incredible moment and such a special way to end the show. And it's so emotional, and she nails those high notes every single time. And it just really shows how good of a singer she is. Like she can do it all. Like she can do the rock out moments, but she can also sing like the super ballady songs with big notes in them. So my thoughts overall on the show, I mean, it was fun. Like, it was pretty much what I expected it to be. Like, I mean, it wasn't like this out of this world show. It wasn't anything like on the level of the Eras Tour or something like that big. But I think it was easily the biggest thing that she's done. I would say even bigger like on a bigger scale maybe than even the Best Damn Tour. Like it's certainly a bigger production, like bigger scale production than even her last few tours have been. And you can tell that they really stepped it up with the visual elements and the special effects. Like there were, like I said, there was smoke machines and fireworks and pyro and like cool things that they were doing with the lighting, and there was confetti and streamers that would come out into the audience, and like the big balloons on stage, and like, you know, pulling fans up on stage and giving them the signed skateboards and stuff. They definitely, I think, really tried to step it up with all of that, like the more production elements. I think it's just exactly what a Greatest Hits tour should be. Like it was, you know, what you would expect it to be. Like she plays on all the right songs that she should be playing, and you know, has a few costume changes, and then there's some interesting like video highlights in between with, you know, all the visual elements and special effects to kind of just round everything off and complete it. And you know, I think any longtime fan would be perfectly satisfied with the show. Like, was it like the most amazing thing I've ever seen? Like, no, but I think it was fine. It was good. I think pretty much anybody would like have a great time seeing it and enjoy themselves. And I think, you know, dare I say, I think it might be Avril's best tour yet. Like, that's kind of hard to say because I know that a lot of people like the Bones tour, and then I think the Best Damn Tour is possibly her best tour ever. But I will say I do think it's better than the last few tours, just in terms, like, they really stepped everything up. And the set list is just really stacked with like banger after banger and so many fun songs to sing along with. Like, I know a lot of people want her to sing her newer stuff, but honestly, when you hear the hits back to back to back, they all have such great sing-along hooks and choruses within them, and you really just kind of start to realize like how many hits she actually has and how fun her music is to like sing along with in a live setting. And I think that's what works about it, that maybe the newer songs don't work, or like the deep cuts don't work as well for that, especially because a lot of times the audience doesn't really know them as well. So overall, I think it was very, very good. It was fun, which is, it accomplished its goal. I would say that's what it was, is that it accomplished its goal of being a celebration of her back catalog and her as an artist for the last 20 plus years. Like it was nostalgia bait, like especially having Simple Plan as one of the opening acts. It was very much millennial nostalgia bait, I would say. It hit on all the right parts that it should. Like maybe it's not, you know, as big of a scale as something like the Eras tour. She's not doing backflips out in the audience and that kind of thing. But I think it accomplished its goal of like what it's meant to be and the target audience that it's meant for. And it's, you know, one of those things that will satisfy like most people in the audience. Going into some of my like more, I guess, like criticisms of it, even though I don't think I really have like that many complaints about it. But I will just say the sound in the venue was very, very loud, like a lot louder than I expected it to be. I don't know if that's just the way that it was or if like every venue is like that, but the music was really, really, really loud to the point that it was hard to hear like any of the acts, not just Avril, but the opening acts as well. Like the music was so loud that it was hard at points to hear the vocals or to understand the lyrics. And what was also weird about the venue, I think it's just because of the way the venue is, with it being a more open air venue, is that the sound was kind of like chipmunky, even when she was just talking, or they would play the video interludes. And like, these are interviews I've heard a million times and I know what they sound like, and they sounded very chipmunky. And even like the opening acts kind of sounded like that too, even when they were just talking. So I think it's just the way that the sound was like bouncing off, maybe, because when I played my videos back, they sounded normal. So that was a little bit annoying, because otherwise she was like vocally hitting, like literally hitting all the right notes. Like she was hitting every note, and the high notes, she was absolutely nailing all those high notes. But it was just the sound, I think the way it was bouncing off like the open parts of the venue maybe or something, it was bouncing off in a weird way that it made everything sound higher pitched than normal. So that was kind of the only thing that was a little bit annoying, is that like I started to be able to tell after a while, I'm like, something sounds really off about this. Like, why does she sound like so chipmunky? So that's like, that might be something you have to keep in mind if you're planning on going to one of these shows and it's in that type of venue, is that the sound might be a little bit odd. The only other thing I would say about the show, in terms of the set list, like even though I think the set list is overall good, I think it is noticeably short. And I think that she could add like maybe another song or two just to kind of make it feel a little bit longer. And if she added something like, you know, a surprise song every night, even if it, like, whether it was a more well-known song or a deep cut, or doing like a very brief acoustic set or something like that, it just like something to kind of help each show feel a little bit more individualized, a little more customized. Because if you kind of like know the show going in, then it's just like the same every single night. And there's like nothing, I think a lot of people like to feel like their show is special. Not that the shows are not special on their own, but I think people just like to feel because a lot of artists do that nowadays with their shows, is that they do like different surprise songs or covers, just something to kind of help it feel a little bit more individualized maybe. Other than that, I really have no complaints about the show. Like I didn't have honestly a lot of expectations going in. I think I kind of knew already what to expect because we know she doesn't really change the set list that much. And I had already seen so much of it online. So I kind of like already knew what to expect going into it anyway. But like, I mean, she did a fine job. Like I thought, there had been some criticisms maybe about like her energy not being like as much as before, but I didn't really notice. I thought, her vocals were good. Her energy was fine for what it needed to be. Like, no, she wasn't jumping up and down and running around like all over the place, like the whole time. But I think she was like doing as much as she needed to be doing. Those aren't the kinds of things that you really notice that much while you're there. You're just having fun, like listening to the songs and singing along and dancing and stuff. You're not really going to pay that much attention to like whether she played this song or didn't play this song, and whether she hit this note or didn't hit this note, and how much she's like running around and that kind of thing. Like unless there's something really obviously wrong or something, you're not really going to notice things like that. You're just going to have a lot of fun. So I would definitely recommend, if you have not been and there's like tickets available to a show near you, to definitely go and see her. Like, some people have kind of said like, well, I don't know if I'm going to see her again. Like if the show is always going to be kind of the same songs that she's been doing. I think no matter what she plays, it's always a fun time. And like, if you have the ability to go and see her, it's always worth it. Always worth it to go and see her. I think very rarely does she ever put on a bad show. Like maybe every once in a while she has an off night because, she's human and that happens. But I think by and large, she's been really consistent this whole tour and like gotten rave reviews for every show and gotten really good response from the fans. And like, it's definitely a show geared towards the longtime Avril fan. I mean, obviously. But I think even for the casual fans or people who haven't necessarily been following her from the very beginning, I think pretty much anybody would enjoy the show. As far as any tips I have with like if you are going to go to a show, definitely read up on the venue rules so that you know what to bring or not bring, what their bag policy is, what they have for parking and food and that kind of thing. That will definitely help you a lot going into the show because like you'll save time if they're not having to spend time being like you can't bring your bag in or if you like don't know where to park and that kind of thing. And it will just make for an overall smoother experience getting inside as well. And like you won't end up like being late and missing half the show or anything. Also, as I said before, I think a lot of venues now are doing e-ticketing. So saving your tickets to your mobile phone will allow for faster entry. And also you should just always have them at the ready because like when I left my seat to go to the bathroom and then come back to my seat, I had to show my tickets to like the ticket person again, even though I had already entered before. So definitely like if you plan on leaving your seat to go to the bathroom or get food or something like that, if you yourself don't have the tickets, always be with the person who does have them. And also you cannot actually like physically leave the venue. Like they usually will not allow you to re-enter. So like if you like forgot something in your car and want to go back and get it, you are not going to be able to re-enter. So just be very, very careful with your tickets and make sure you have them on hand basically at all times. And that if you're going to leave the venue, that it's not until the end of the show. And then also for the merch, basically knowing ahead of time what you plan to buy. Like while you're waiting in line, you can look at the booth and kind of see what they have and pay attention to like what number it is so that when it's your turn that you can go very, very fast. And also knowing that there's multiple merch stands as well might help the process go faster. Something that I didn't do, but I would recommend if I could go back and tell myself to do this, I would totally do this, is I would definitely recommend wearing earplugs if you have them, whether they're just the cheap rubber kind or the loops and those kinds of ones that are made for listening to concerts. If you have earplugs of any kind, I would definitely recommend wearing them because like I said, the sound in our venue was super, super, super loud. So when you're in a concert that loud, you just want to do what you can to protect your hearing. And then also my last tip would be to plan for extra time to arrive just due to things like traffic and parking and going through the security lines. And then if you want to get merch and food and that kind of thing, just planning for extra time so that you don't arrive like right as everything is happening or that you end up missing any part of the show. So to conclude, Avril was on stage for about an hour and a half. The show ended at about 11:30, and then it took us about an hour to get home. And so I didn't end up getting to bed until about almost 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I had to work the next day, so I was kind of tired. So maybe if you're able to like take the next day off of work or something like that, or if you're going on a weekend or something, just so that you can plan if it's going to be a late night out. Honestly, we didn't actually have as much trouble as I thought we would getting out of the parking lot. It was a little bit, hectic with everyone trying to leave at the same time, but it wasn't too bad actually trying to leave afterwards. So overall, I had a really good experience, like everything from start to finish, like getting to the venue and then finding parking, going through all the lines, getting the merch, and, finding our seats, and then the way that the opening acts were, and then Avril's set and the production levels and her vocals, and everything was just like as good as you can hope for it to be. Like, everything went off without a hitch, and then getting home afterwards, like everything went off without a hitch. 10 out of 10 experience. And like I had said, very much needed after everything that we've been going through. And I think, like I said, I've mentioned before, I've been a fan of hers since I was a little girl. If I could tell 9-year-old Andrea that 20 years later you're going to be seeing Avril on her Greatest Hits tour with your husband, I think she would not believe it. I don't think Avril would believe it either, actually, to know that like 20 years later she's still touring and that she's selling out arenas of like 20,000 people. I'm not sure that she ever expected that she would reach those kinds of heights in her career again. And you can tell that she's so happy to be doing the tour. Like I forgot to mention this, but she was super talkative and interactive with the crowd. And you could tell how much fun she's having doing this, especially bringing her friends like Simple Plan and girlfriends on the road with her, and how much she appreciates that she still has the opportunity to be touring this late into her career, this far into her career. And, she's really proud of the catalog of hits that she's created. And, I think she really enjoys seeing when the fans sing along to all the words and just have a great time. I think she gets so much joy out of seeing that. So, such an amazing way to celebrate her career and the artist that she is, the career that she's had. Where she's going to go next from here, I don't know, because it's like, what do you do after her Greatest Hits tour? But I really, really appreciate the way that she has stepped up like the production level on this tour. Like, even if the set list is kind of more or less the same, I do think that the production is like on another level that we haven't seen from her before. And like I said, I think no matter what she plays, you'll have a great time if you go and see her. Like, definitely go and see her if you can. And I had almost thought like maybe this would be my last time going to see her, if she's just gonna kind of play the same songs every tour, and the shows aren't really gonna vary that much. But then after seeing it, I'm like, no, like if she comes to my area again, I'm like, I have to go, right? I think you'll never regret going to see her. Like, you'll have a fun time no matter what. And that's what it's all about. It's just about forgetting about real life for a night and going out with, your friends or your loved ones and just vibing to some really great music with an artist that you love. So I think that's a great note for me to end on for what might possibly be the last ever episode I do in this closet of mine in this apartment. I would love if you could all keep me in your best wishes or thoughts or prayers during this time as I try to figure out where I might be recording this podcast from the next time that you might hear from me. If I can, I would like to try to do an episode once the tour ends, which is going to be September, but that's going to be kind of close to when my honeymoon is coming up. And then I'm probably going to be trying to move pretty soon after that. So I don't know if and when I'll be able to do that episode, but that's my plan for the next episode, I think. I'll see when I can possibly get to doing that, but hopefully that could maybe be the farewell episode from this apartment, but we'll have to see. So in the meantime, I would love if you could just kind of put out your best apartment hunting vibes and wishes for me, that I find something that will be better and a good, happy, positive place to continue hosting this podcast from. So for now, we conclude this edition of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you can get new episodes directly in your feed, and please take a minute to leave a rating or review to help more fans find the show. We're currently streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and Audible. And you can also find me on Instagram at Best Damn Avril Pod to keep up with the latest podcast news. Be sure to join me again next time on the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. The Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast is hosted, produced, and edited by Andrea DiFrancesco. Theme music is HD and Lights by J. Powell Flicks. Follow the latest podcast news on Instagram at Best Damn Avril Pod or email bestdamnavrilpod@yahoo.com.